Today we are going to be talking about stolen penises and breasts. Welcome back to Madness in Nigeria Living, and I'm your host, Messi. If you grew up in Nigeria or most of West Africa, at one point in your life you would have heard about someone who got their penis stolen or their penis disappeared, usually in a public setting. Usually on their way somewhere, they met a stranger, that somehow their penis got stolen, or the breast, or the nipples. It's usually a variation of that, but most times it's the penis. Why is that? And is it a unique problem to West Africa? This is what we are going to try to discuss. For a lot of us, myself included, I just learned this recently. This syndrome is actually called the Koro disease or Koro Syndrome. And the word Koro comes from Thailand. So you know this is not a unique to Africa problem. The question now is it founded in truth or is it founded in some form of fiction? First things first, the Koro Syndrome in Thailand, Singapore is sort of different from the Koro Syndrome in Nigeria. For one, theirs is linked to an impending feeling of death. So it's not just that the penis got missing. It's not just that the breast got missing. It's more so that is seen as an omen for incoming death. But for us, it's not linked to that. It's just the feeling. So I felt it was necessary for me to highlight the nuance because it is recognized sort of as a socio-cultural disease, or more like a socio-cultural psychological disease, meaning the missing of the penis is sort of linked to our already belief. And that's what I really want to talk about, our belief system in this sense, why we believe that is even possible. Because even though a lot of people claim, oh, their penis got stolen, we don't necessarily see the missing penis. In this day and age where the internet is covering almost everything, our phones have steady surveillance of everything. How come no one has taken a video of the penis and see that it's missing? And in that regards, you now see variation to the disease, which is like the recent case in Ghana that focus on not the disappearance of the physical penis, but more so the disappearance of the ability to get erect. God, I have to be serious. Okay, the ability to get erect. Now, what does this mean? It means there are some people who their penis, for whatsoever reason, is missing somewhere. What can we do to combat it? Let me first point that in the case that happened in Singapore, it was linked to eating pig. That caused a huge decline in the sales of pork. But in the case that happened in Calabar, Nigeria in 2022-2023, the way to prevent it was bitter cola. And we saw a rise in the price of bitter cola, which is very, very interesting. The moment I saw that, I started thinking of ways to start the rumor to push a business you already invested in. You see what I'm thinking? I want to believe I'm not the only one who have thought something like that, and that's why it's very interesting to critique where the rumor is coming from. Because for a lot of Nigerian cases, the people that are seen as the attackers are usually one of these three categories: a pastor, or at least a religious leader in a local community, a politician, or a political person, or a public person in that same community, or a successful businessman. Ignore my skepticism in the whole spiritual aspect of it, but I generally believe it's targeted for specific people. Because if you have a perceived enemy, you would want to target these people. But the question now lies is, if I start the rumor because I'm trying to target the people, why does it lead to mass violence? Why does it lead to the lynching of people, the killing of people, the burning of houses? So it's not just that this might be an unfounded rumor. It's the main issue with it is the belief that it actually does exist. The hysteria is the main issue with it. So when you look at it from that angle, you start saying that It's not just that this might be unfounded rumors, it's more so that this is believed by a lot of people. Now comes the second part about it. The Koro Syndrome is linked to high anxiety. So there's a argument to be made that it's not started by unfounded rumors, like I said earlier, but more so it started by the anxiety, because anxiety can play a trick on the way you perceive your body. And for most guys, we do know that our penis shrinks during colder weather. It's a known thing. But if there's the anxiety to performance or many other things, that shrinkage can be linked to something extraordinary, can be linked to something spiritual, because it's something you already believe in. We should not bring the rise of this news in Nigeria. The earliest instance I saw when I was making my research was in the 70s. From there till now, it has usually followed the pattern of it comes up within 4 or 5 years. Nobody really talks about it again. Then it comes up again within 4 or 5 years. But those coming up is linked to something. I'll get to that. What I find the most interesting though is when it started rising, there was a spiritual element to it in the sense that the first news of this disappearance of penises was linked, or is positively correlated, more like it, to the rise of Pentecostal churches. Now, I'm not saying Pentecostal churches caused it, but I'm pointing at a base pattern. The base pattern being Pentecostal churches started pushing the narrative of witches, village people, and demons. And with those rise of witches, village people, and demons, it's very easy to now interpret everything happening in your life with a spiritual lens. But when that pattern started rising, it's also the same time Nollywood started rising up. So a lot of Nollywood stories focus on the spiritual element of things. Focus on a village woman, a witch that is bewitching the full family, that prayers will end up defeating, an occult man that is using this for wealth. That's the kind of movie I grew up watching. And when you grow up watching this kind of movie, it's already there for you to believe this. There's a sort of credibility we have given to it. And that's why it comes as no surprise that even though Nigerian medical sector do not believe this is factual, our police do not believe this is factual, because every investigation shows that, oh, this never happens. Somehow you still see individual police that will be part of the people beating up the accused because they themselves believe it. Even if the institution of the police do not believe it, there are individuals that are doctors, that are police, that are nurses that believe this, and they will always bring the spiritual element. They'll tell you to pray. What that does is it fails to solve the problem, because a lot of the problem comes from anxiety, and education about it just can reduce the problem. Someone is feeling their penis is missing. You educate them. You tell them, oh, it's just a short-term thing for your penis to shrink. A lot of things can cause this. Stress, cold, a lot of things. Numerous things can cause it, even with performance, sexually speaking. But when you link it to the spiritual, it causes real life damage. There are a lot of people that get mobbed. There are a lot of people that get killed. I read the story of a restaurant owner in Calabar that on his way to opening his restaurant on a good day, someone accused him of stealing the penis, and he was beaten and detained in the police station. That's someone that has lost money and lost the whole day. Yes, the Calabar state later arrested the victim of the penis disappearance. But the thing and the underlying issue is still, a lot of people believe this thing. How can we correct it? This madness can be corrected by education. One of the education is our mental health should be taken more seriously. The government should create awareness to our mental well-being. And another ways we can correct it is an economical situation. Like I said, the disappearance of penis rises up within every 4 years, disappear and comes back again. And every time it comes up, it's positively correlated to economical uncertainty. So, started rising up again during COVID 2020. There was also the mass hysteria of disappearance of penises in the early 2000s. All of these times are linked to economical uncertainty. And it also comes as no surprise that the vast majority of the people who believe their penis is missing, or their genitals in this case is missing, is men. There are fewer women who believe that, oh, their breast is missing. Why? Because men are providers in our society. The men are expected to provide for their family. The men are expected to be the one to bring money. And if we are not living in an era where money is very difficult to make, it makes you start feeling less like a man. We have started seeing men questioning what it means to be a man, masculinity. A lot of men feel threatened. And this feeling threatened is because they feel they are no longer providers. They are no longer doing what men are supposed to do. And instead of them to go for help, instead of public discourse to be about how to elevate the mental health of men, it is much more easier to blame wishes. It is much more easier to blame some spiritual thing. And that's why it comes as no surprise that anytime there is economical uncertainty in the case of our current government and the high inflation rate, we start seeing cases of disappearing penises all over again. So what can we do about it? We can have the better economy for one, and we will no longer worry about that, because the disappearing penises is not unique to West Africa. It's not unique to Nigeria. It's not unique to Africa. It's something we have seen across the world through time. It happened in the 15th century Germany, the 15th century France, the 15th century Britain. It happened in the 20th century East Asia. And we're seeing it the same happening now. It's always linked to a strong belief in religious institution and economical uncertainty. It's not just the religious institution, there has to be economical uncertainty at the same time. So just talking about it, just the awareness about it can go a long way. And do not be afraid. It's, at least so far, there have been no fact of someone that their actual penis got missing. It's just people who believe it due to anxiety and all that. So if you see someone suffering from it, in one hand, the government might decide to arrest you so as not to spread the rumor, as a way to deter more people from causing those type of rumor. And on the other hand, we can just create a safer space where people can express their angst, their anxiety, the existential dread that happened in this day and age. There you have it, guys. Thanks again for coming to this episode. I know I sounded a little bit more stiff, and that's because the whole time I was trying not to laugh. When I was making research, the whole thing was just so funny that there are people who strongly believe this. And yeah, there you have it, guys. Thanks again for coming. Please do well to like, subscribe, and comment. Share to people you know who enjoy this kind of content. And we'll see you again next week. Mwah.